How do you explain how animals got from was it the Middle East to islands all around the globe in 6,000 years? Was it?
Well, if you look at the Earth according to a biblical view, um,
Hmm.
after the flood, there was a massive amount of the water that ended up in the northern hemisphere in terms of ice. Before all that melted, there were a lot of land bridges. Okay,
So
to
places like
different parts of the
Australia
world.
could get
Yeah, there
animals
were. Yeah,
nearly.
if,
Got you.
if you take a look at it, when the water table was much lower in the oceans, there's a lot of land bridges. Now there are some places islands. Well, uh, I don't have to explain
Just
how they
yell.
got there.
Who's
They
that?
could have been they could have been brought there by God supernaturally. They could have gotten there naturally through swimming or on. They could have been
Logs and
carried
things. That's
by
happened before.
debris. You
Yeah.
know, they could be carried by. We know that in the distant past, that there people were seafaring long before we had previously thought, and they could have brought some of these creatures to these planets. I'm not troubled by what I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So this is what people have said to me, and I've struggled to respond in the past. That's what it is.
Well, I don't have to. I don't have to answer all the questions. What I just simply say is, um, you know, the United. Look, when the United States was battling Japan and they basically lost the war, but they were still fighting. We didn't just keep shooting at them and invade Japan. We dropped the bomb on them, and then it was over. So all you have to do
We
is say,
dropped a
listen,
couple.
yeah, well, yeah, we dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
Is
So
that justified?
when you're dealing with people who believe in an old Earth, an old universe, and evolution, all they're simply doing is regurgitating what they've been brainwashed to believe because it's the prevailing paradigm, right? So what you just simply do is say, good, if you believe that, you reject the biblical worldview and the Christian God. So you're going to have to tell me what is the foundation of your whole system that you'll have to account for that evolution and everything is built upon. And they cannot answer this. You see, what they want to do is they want to ignore it. They want me to give them a pass. If they're going to reject my God, they're going to reject God's self-disclosure of himself about God's action in creation and in history, then why should I grant them any foundational truth? So then I'm going to say to them, I'm going to apply to them the same standard that they apply to the God of the Bible. Give me a good reason to believe in your foundations upon which everything else you believe, evolution, science, is built upon. What is that foundation? They cannot answer this. And so what they'll do is they'll
They'll say
just
they'll
try to be
presuppose it.
evasive.
They'll say they'll like
Right.
presuppose.
Good. Then they're violating their criterion of belief. Say,
How so?
why don't you presuppose God then?
Because what they'll do is they'll
Well,
presuppose their
say
senses.
why don't you start with God? Well, I need a good reason for God. Good. Then what is your good reason for whatever constitutes not God? What's your reason for that?
And they'll say that they'll see what they believe to be contradictions in biblical
No,
texts.
sir. No, sir, that makes no difference. They can try to attack the Bible all they want, but that's not an answer to the question. If they require a good reason to believe in a personal absolute creator, and they do not
Hmm.
accept that for their phony criterion, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit them right between their eyes with their own criterion. I'm going to say, good, since you don't have a good reason to believe in the personal absolute creator God, what is your good reason for the impersonal absolute that makes God unnecessary? What is it? And they don't have an answer. They just simply adopt this vague notion that there's something that's absolute that provides for all dependent states, but they have no rationale for it. They have no justification. So on their own terms, their whole system collapses. It's game over.
Yeah.
Once you, if you look, I want you to imagine, just for the sake of argument, that the Christian God exists. And he has given self-disclosure, sovereign revelation that is infallible and inerrant about himself. Okay? So that means that the Christian God is the only prerequisite for all dependent states. And then if you deny that, you will have nowhere else to turn. Okay? Now they
Yeah.
come along and they say, oh, well, I don't have a good reason to believe that the Christian God is the ultimate prerequisite for all dependent states. I said, good. And since you're spewing statements of dependency and dependent facts, what is it that is the ultimate and foundational basis for the actuality, intelligibility of those facts in your system? What is it? And they've got nothing. They're blowing smoke. They violate their own criterion. That's why atheism and agnosticism is hopelessly incoherent. That's why when many atheists come in this room, they will not challenge my trashing atheism, because they know if they challenge when I trash atheism, they're going to have to defend the coherence of atheism, which they cannot do.
What
I
about if
mean,
someone comes in
do,
here
do,
spouting?
do you think Gary Coleman would have stepped into the ring with Muhammad Ali?
Gary.
Okay, yeah. Would he have done that? No, he wouldn't have.